my name's Kelly Clayton. I work for Yakama Nation, and I'm here today to ask for funds through the Surfboard Riparian plot. This is for a project in the upper Cle Elum River at river miles 17.5 to 18.3, and this is my only location map. So you can see that the Cle Elum Reservoir is right here. The project site is about 2 miles upstream of the reservoir, which is river miles 17.5. This is today I'm at the 60% design level. We contracted with Natural Systems Design for an engineering design for aquatic restoration to improve in-stream habitat. And we had expected the 90% before today's presentation, but it got postponed to May 6th. So I'll have 90% designs before site visits, I suspect, are after May 6th.
Yeah, correct. Next week,
After next week, okay. Go ahead.
so there's
Yeah.
a clicker right
Oh,
there.
I got the.
And if you press the topmost button really hard, you can get a laser pointer as well. Possibly.
Possibly,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying this out, and then to advance, I go right.
Try again. There we go.
Perfect, okay. I should mention that Yakama Nation's involved in designing all the way out into the north end of the reservoir. With BPA funds. This project in particular is funded through the Cle Elum Flores project, with Yardwood funding, and I'll get in more detail for that. So the Cle Elum watershed drains over a 200 square mile watershed. You've got two main tributaries here, Wapsis and Cooper River, along the upper Cle Elum River. You have above the reservoir an established sockeye salmon that were part of a reintroduction program back in 2009. And within the watershed, you've got other species below the reservoir, coho, spring chinook, steelhead, and along the reservoir at the base of the dam, a juvenile fish passage facility has been built to pass fish through. And there's an adult facility collection, trap and haul operation that will be up and running soon. And Yakama Nation plans to reintroduce coho, spring chinook, and steelhead and potentially bull trout back into this watershed above the reservoir. Available habitat. So right now we've got sockeye salmon. This slide is a slide I stole from Andrew Matala, who's our sockeye biologist in Cle Elum, and we've got the north end of the reservoir here, and our available spawning habitat up until that blue point up there. I've added these landmarks here for folks. This red line here is the French Cabin Creek Bridge. We've got Cooper Bridge right here. And then we've got Cooper River confluence just upstream. So the project area is 2 miles above the reservoir, but just below the Cooper River Bridge. So in this green section, it's about a mile of river. And then obviously we've got, it's not a lot of spawning habitat available, and we've got the impassable barrier of China Falls upstream. So as I mentioned, this project came out of the Cle Elum Flores project. So Yakama Nation got involved with 3 of the shoreline protection projects required for the Cle Elum Flores. I took on managing Night Sky, Timber Cove, in Domry Bay, which is right there. So we got, Yakama Nation got Night Sky Domry Bay done last year, and I'm hoping to start Timber Cove next week. I've got the pre-construction meeting scheduled for this Friday. So, the reason this is important is because all of the salvage trees from these shoreline protection projects are feeding this Upper Cle Elum River project. All of the wood is free and donated for aquatic restoration. And there's a lot of interest with partners in Fish and Wildlife to use the wood in the Cle Elum and not transport it off-site. Our Plan B site is the Tianaway, and I'd really like to see all this wood used in the Upper Cle Elum River. It doesn't make sense to be hauling it off site. So right now, we have all of the wood is getting stockpiled at the Housing Pit, which is a Forest Service gravel pit, just on the other side of San Luis Sac at the project site. So it's there, it's ready to go. We have trees salvaged from Night Sky that are currently stockpiled. I have trees from the Cle Elum Dam Fish Passage project currently stockpiled there. Sandalwood Lane trees I pulled out of there last year. Okay, we've got more trees coming from Timber Cove this year. And Yakama Nation's doing the harvest for Spelei, which is Reclamation's last shoreline protection project that still needs to be completed. Yakama Nation's doing that harvest through a 638 contract, so that those trees are available for the Upper Cle Elum River, which we hope to implement this year, which causes me a lot of anxiety because the fish window, the in-water work window opens July 16th. So we're, what, three months away? So, is that 3 months? I can't do the math. Couple months away. So, moving on. So this is looking at the project area, looking upstream. Cooper Bridge is right above this. It's out of the screen, but you've got the, what they call, Forest Service calls the hippie hole. There's a lot of recreation activity. I was gonna mention that on the earlier slide. It's just at, yeah, that meander bend, and then this is where the side channel reconnection would be. So you're essentially looking at the floodplain here. A lot of the project areas missing on the southern end of this picture, but the project, we want to increase floodplain connectivity. A lot of the man-made features influencing the Upper Cle Elum River is San Luis Sac Road, Cooper River Bridge crossing. There's a lot of campsites along river left. There's campsites on river right. There's a lot of recreation in this area. As I mentioned, Yakama Nation's involved in designing. We've got 4 projects we're designing, and a lot of it needs to get wreck out of the river, so they're not driving over reds, trashing the reservoir, which is minimizing riparian vegetation growth. It's just really impacting this area. And Forest Service, so we presented the Forest Service, gosh, was it 2024? I think March of 24, so it was a year ago. 4 projects. Forest Service felt most comfortable with doing a project in this uppermost reach, that it had the least recreational impact. But I'll mention the further downstream, with BPA funding, we did advance to a 15% design, which we haven't released for comment yet, but it's to address a lot of that recreational impact. And so part of this grant ask, I'm hoping will include an outreach component, and this project hopefully will serve to the public what we can do on those downstream reaches, and get a lot of good work done in the Cle Elum. Project reach is about 1 mile long, so that's looking downstream. Okay, here's the side channel, old side channel that we want to reconnect here. So there's excavation proposed to create islands and sinuosity in the main stem, but the whole intent is to create off-channel habitat for rearing. As we have other species reintroduced into the upper Cle Elum River, there's gonna be a lot of competition. Perhaps not right, well, not right now, because we don't have steelhead, coho, and chinook competing with sockeye. But they share, it's overlapping rearing habitat, and so there's gonna be a lot of competition once those species are back in here. For rearing habitat, they overwinter in the reservoir, the sockeye do, but there's gonna be we need more hiding cover, more rearing habitat and spawning habitat in the river itself. So construction, so this is not, I'm not asking for construction funding. This is all funded through Reclamation's yard width funding. Except for this, the habitat loss. So I'm requesting riparian funding and floodplain wood placement. As part of our grant application. These other structures, other materials, excavation, all of that's being funded through yard width. Okay. But the habitat logs, you can see are these individual logs, okay? Going through here from where we wanted, or we proposed excavation to create a, so what I'm looking for, and a branch plan form. We've got all of this floodplain wood that would be interacting at the higher flows. This is to create a perennial side channel. These clusters here are the type 3, so that's all part of your wood, but these individual logs, we are requesting those. Yep, and I've got quantities there. Right. Planting, we have proposed for the islands that we want to create with the excavated material, planting in those islands, planting in the log jams. We have different polygons for different areas, so the lower gravel planting area, upland riparian, and a bridge stream planting area through here. I don't know how much detail we want to get into, and then seeding areas. So we've got, and I can always come back to this slide too with questions, but when I did the pre-application presentation, there's a lot of questions about hydraulics and whether or not the floodplain wood was interacting at higher flows. So I did a side-by-side of the planting area showing the wood, the floodplain wood placement with a 90% exceedance interval showing, and now this is proposed conditions. So with the excavated channel showing that it's activated. Over here, you can see at the 1 year. And mainly, I just wanted to show these to show where the water was flowing and interacting with the floodplain. Here is just showing a 2-year and a 10-year, more flow in the channel. And I've got more information available if folks are interested in this 100-year flow. We're proposing machine-assisted deep planting using hydraulic ram or stinger. If folks aren't familiar with this method, this is one way that you can achieve that. This is an expandable stinger, and it essentially pierces the ground and get trees in the ground 5 feet, 4 feet to ensure that you're penetrating the groundwater table. Very effective on Tatum Creek, where we've used this method as well as other tributaries in South Fork, Kelly. I know there's other ways to achieve the planting. We wanted to take advantage of the stream crossings. And I don't know if that's in this diagram. To show my axis here. I know there's a stream crossing here, there, and then I don't think this shows my access. But, there's this very limited access on River Right. You can only get there from Cooper Bridge, hiking down. There's a decommissioned road, overgrown road, but we don't want to reopen that road. And you wouldn't be able to get heavy equipment in there, from River Right. So we're proposing to access from River Left, across the river, installing temporary bridges for access. So we wanted to utilize that. Also with the very cobbly substrate, on the floodplain. It would be very difficult to plant them by hand and getting the materials in there. So we wanted to take advantage of the stream crossings and use machine assisted planting. So all of our species, the owner is Forest Service, and so I've shared this design with Helen and Kelly Evans. We're getting feedback on the plant list, and of course, we want local stock. I'm working on securing those plants with BPA funding until this funding comes into place, if it's awarded. A lot of ifs. I don't have funding for this work. That's the reason I'm here. So, all of our planting species, we'll lock these in with the May 6th, 90% design, which we're looking at as a draft final. We're hoping to, which I'm gonna use to put out to bid. We'll have a final design by May 30th. So just really tight timeline to still implement July 16th. We need to be done with the in-water work by the 15th, due to my grading sockeye. And spawning, so we don't want to disrupt any spawning activity. So the planting, we're looking at this fall, if we're able, if selected and awarded these funds. I have done a project before on Tana Creek where I put it out to bid, and the planting was an additive bid item. Not the planting, sorry, I had an additional reach that I had requested funding for, and I had it as an additive bid item in my construction contract. And once the RCO funds were awarded, I was able to amend my contract and add it in and get it. I spent the funds within a month of getting them. I think it was a record, hoping for another record if you're interested in funding this project. So budget, I've got the Yardwood funding here, reclamation, and then the RCO acts. I don't know if we're gonna be able to implement the project this year. It's really tight. So I'm asking for funds in case we need to implement in 2026, fall of 2026. That being said, I have to bring the stream crossings back out to access the restoration sites. So if we're able to do it this fall, I will not be spending these funds. This would go back and back to RCO, but I have them reserved here. And I actually don't know what this will cost. These are probably too high of numbers, but I will be able to dial it in for the full application due in June, because I will have bids. You have this project out to bid, and the planting will be an additive bid item in that construction contract as a sub. So I've got the habitat logs, the floodplain logs, which are for just habitat logs in the design, but it's about 50,000. Wood delivery, I'm not sure if this is needed. It all depends. If all of the wood gets staged, we might be able to do it while we're doing all the in-water work. I just don't know. We might need that if the floodplain was placed in fall of 2026. So there's some funding reserved there. For the ELJs and all the in-water work and excavation, and that's about $2 million, 2.1. This portion of it is 278,000. Can you tell? I got this. So that was, for the floodplain wood, but the actual planting is estimated to be about 223,000. And we're looking to partner with KCT, Kittitas Conservation Trust. They were instrumental in getting the Timber Cove Shoreline Protection Project, Plan Employees Shoreline Protection Project, moving to construction. They helped Yakama Nation close on acquiring a property to secure that construction access. So they've already been involved, and already a partner in working on Gold Creek and with the Forest Service, and so we'd like to bring in, Mountains to Sound, Greenway as a labor on this, and so we've got their staff time. And as part of our stewardship, year 2 and 3 for weed control, replanting if needed, and the education outreach component of the project. All in total, our ask is looking like 545,000. This reclamation share, I only have a budget of 2 million, 2.2 to be exact, so we are over budget. The engineer's estimates are always high. So I'm looking for, I'm hoping for that, but we would we would scale back, eliminate an ELJ if needed to stay within budget. But so yeah, this is about 2.2 million on the yard width share, so I'm just gonna open it up for questions. Sorry, that
There
was really
more?
choppy.
Was there more
presentation.
that you had?
No, that's
Okay,
my
perfect.
last slide. Yeah, I
Hang
just
on.
made it. Yeah.
Does the Forest Service have to do NEPA with this project?
This project's gonna, yes, or it's gonna be covered under their Region 6 Aquatic EA. We've already completed ARBO, we've already completed the RRT review process. Now we're working on an agreement, so that way we can get that NEPA coverage and submit our HPA. So that's, Tara O'Rourke's been, working on that with Cassandra. And once we get through that process, we'll be able to submit our HPA application.
Well, I'd make a comment about your project. Because in the middle of that, where the river comes closest to the road, the river is always working on taking that road out.
Yes.
And it will take a lot of the pressure off of that bulge in the side, right? Up and up, a little further up. Well, actually, looks like you're gonna fill in a little bit, but that's where the road is, and the river is always working that over big time. And it did a couple years back or so even take out part of it.
Yeah.
So that would take a lot of, some of the velocity off on the other side. So that is just helps the county keep their road there, that's all.
How much higher are they looking to raise the pool?
3 feet,
Up,
3 feet.
just 3 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So is that where you see the
In the reservoir.
The rest-
Wondering that part.
Oh, no,
No, it won't impact.
The water won't reach here.
but is that where all the armoring is that you see along the Cle Elum, Lake Cle Elum, all that armoring that's been going on?
Yes, all of the shoreline protection that's required to raise the pool,
Yes.
part of the EIS.
Yes, right.
Was to protect private property.
property.
Yeah, so I've been working a lot on protecting, working with 3 communities on the reservoir. And then
Yeah.
also flow easements for
Yeah, they've been going
inundated.
pretty strong in that. That's very much.
Yeah, we're almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more, working with the Bureau to help accomplish.
Well, so let me ask you about the trees then. When that does, there are places further down along the bank, the dam and stuff, when the lake does come up higher, there's a lot of trees that are on the edge by Speleo. Those trees will come down. Do you guys salvage those trees?
Are you talking about the driftwood or the actual standing trees?
Standing trees,
Yes.
because the bank, it's gonna go right up to the
Yeah.
earthen bank there.
Yeah, so all of the trees that will get inundated or need to be removed for the actual armoring to protect that
Okay,
shoreline,
yeah.
for that, account for that rise
Yes,
in surface water elevation, all of those trees are coming down. I have that pre-bid tomorrow,
okay,
to look at all those trees. with contractors.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll be bringing those down. I'm trying to remember how many trees at Speley. I think
There'll be a few of them.
we had 214 root balls harvested from Sandman Lane. I think Speley we're getting about 183.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go count trees at Timber Cove, because I don't actually know how many are at
Oh.
Timber Cove, but
It's all right.
a lot of trees that we would like to use for this project. As I mentioned, we have funding, For in-stream work, the side channel work, we're over budget. We don't have money for plants. We don't have money for, the floodplain wood, and so that's why I'm doing the surfboard and asking for funds. It would be, if we're not able to implement this fall, then we would look at implementing in fall of 26. So if this isn't awarded, I will just continue applying for other grant sources.
Kelly, I got a question for you. I was curious, what's the range in flow, low to height that's for the side channel, or has that been assessed yet or dialed in? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I don't know off the top of my head,
Oh,
but I can get back to you on that, Joe.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. Okay, so Bonneville Power Administration, so I mentioned this is all funded through YARB with the design. And the in-water work for all of the salvage trees coming from shoreline protection projects. We got BPA involved in funding the design on those 3 lower project reaches I mentioned on the north end of the reservoir and around the French Cabin Creek area to exclude the public and do more aquatic restoration. Bonneville Power said that they're done after the 50% design. They said it's the responsibility of reclamation because it's their dam. Yeah, so we're gonna be looking for more funding for those lower reaches. That's the side note. Any more questions on this one?
Any questions on Zoom?
No, I have none.
You have the planting plans done?
Yes. Yes.
1 second.
And, oh, you have to give me.
Go for it.
Yeah, and I'm having this reviewed right now by Forest Service. Yeah. So I just asked.
A question, that lower bench is the main area where you have a flat surface that seems to wet up. But it looks like only the lowest one's getting planted. Is it?
I'm gonna zoom to these.
Yeah. So if you look at the Q10,
Mhm.
that whole surface is wetted up by the 17.9.
Mhm.
But it looks like you're only planting a sliver. Is there a reason not to plant the rest of it? Does it get too high to plant, like the middle stuff, or is there?
It's a great question. All right, okay, now I'm gonna advance back to, well, I guess you've got the planting polygons right here. Maybe
yeah.
we can add that in, Alex.
I just, yeah, I'd be
Get
curious
more
if there was a
upland.
reason not to
Yeah.
add that in, and it might be,
Yeah.
but.
I will be calling, we're trying to get things dialed in because we've got 2 weeks from yesterday to have the 90% design and, we're missing valuable input from Helen and Kelly Evans to finalize our design. So I will be talking through all of that. I'm sure things will change between this iteration and the 90% once we get everything dialed in here in 2 weeks. So the reason there's a real urgency for this project is because trees are currently stockpiled at the housing pit that were harvested last year. So that's already 1-year-old trees that we're using to build our engineered log jams. So they're starting to decompose, they lose their integrity. Some people have asked me, why can't you use the driftwood? Well, just gonna break apart. You can't pile drive with dead trees. So we've got 1-year-old trees currently stockpiled with more coming. So that's just really why we want to get the project done this year and not transport these to a different project offsite in the Tianaway. But Tianaway is a great project, which could very well use these trees. So they'll go to a happy place at some point. Yeah, and we're doing our best to implement this year and stay on schedule, but yeah, worst case scenario is that the whole thing gets postponed to 2026. At that point, we would be constructing engineered log jams with 2-year-old wood that came from San Juan Lane and Night Sky from last year. And Cle Elum Fish Passage, but that's not the end of the world. At that point, we wouldn't want to use older than 2-year-old trees. We would just, if this project doesn't happen next year at the latest, then they would be transported to a different project.
Trevor answered my question.
Huh?
You pulled up an aerial and it's actually beautifully vegetated already.
Oh, great. Who answered
So
that?
We have one more question. It disappeared on me. I don't know what that's about. Mark was the one that asked it. Oh, okay. He retracted it. Okay, never mind. Was answered, she says.
Good answer. Great. Well, I'm
Uh,
sure you can bring more questions to the site visit and.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
it.